The Rock makes an electrifying return at Bad Blood. We talk about Kevin Owens and his surprise heel turn, as well as big news regarding Monday Night Raw. All this and more on this episode of the J Area Podcast. What is going on, pro wrestling fans? Welcome back to the J Area. My name is Jose Ramos Jr., and a big weekend filled with action, drama, and suspense within the WWE. Obviously, we have the fallout of Bad Blood, the latest premium live event that WWE has to present, and the big news coming out of it, of course, was the surprise return of The Rock. This would come at the conclusion of the Bloodline versus Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns tag team match, where I was actually surprised. If you had watched my prediction video for the Bad Blood event, I had chosen the Bloodline to get the upset over the two biggest stars in professional wrestling, with the thought process really being that why would you have Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu, the Bloodline, essentially? Why would you have them suffer yet another loss? We saw Solo Sikoa lose at SummerSlam. He lost in the steel cage match against Cody Rhodes, so I thought it would kind of derail the momentum that they had built over the course of the summer. So I thought, maybe they have some kind of interference, whether it's the Tongans, whether it's a debuting new member of the Bloodline. I didn't think that we would have them lose, but essentially they did. Roman Reigns gets a clean victory over Solo Sikoa, pinning him in the middle of the ring. And I realize now, saying clean, some people will make the argument, well, Jimmy Uso did make his return, but keep in mind the Tongans had interfered and Jimmy Uso really retaliated, so it kind of evens out in a way. And that's another thing too. Jimmy Uso finally making his return after spending months on the shelf. He wasn't seen on WWE since the first episode following WrestleMania, on SmackDown that is. So it was a welcome surprise to see Jimmy. He got a great ovation from the crowd. We had a great interaction between he and Roman Reigns, reestablishing and reuniting two of the original members of the Bloodline. But then the celebration wouldn't last too long because Cody Rhodes would receive another beatdown from the Bloodline. Jimmy tells Roman, hey, I'm with you all the way. You want to go help him? I'm with you. You don't want to help him? I'm with you. Essentially, they go back, they help out Cody Rhodes, and after the beatdown, after the comeback, we get the sounding of The Rock's entrance theme. The Rock, the final boss, makes a huge return. Again, this would be his first return since the Raw after WrestleMania 40, making good on his promise that he would remind Cody that I'm always here, that I'm always watching. And we got what followed. We would have a one of those classic Rock promos, social media promos, and The Rock walking throughout the backstage area, talking about how he's always had his eye on the product, and basically insinuating that there's a lot of things going on, a lot of BS going on in the WWE. I'm hoping that we're going to get a follow-up on SmackDown at some point, maybe another Instagram or Twitter promo that The Rock has to offer in order to provide some sense of logic as well as reasoning, and therefore lack of action too, because The Rock just came out there and reestablished his presence. Didn't do much of anything other than, the whole slit of the throat motion and the 1, 2, 3 reminding Cody that he did pin him in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania 40. Interesting to see. I think this is going to lead down to Survivor Series, the War Games matchup, which will then in turn probably lead to some kind of program at WrestleMania. Now the question is, will it be The Rock versus Cody, or will it be The Rock versus Roman Reigns? Either way, both matches are sure to sell out WrestleMania and are big marquee events. But that's what happened on the show, Bad Blood. Big news that had followed the event of Bad Blood. If you were on social media, you would have seen that fans, off of their iPhones, or whatever phone they have, were able to record what transpired involving Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. You see, the WWE always holds these press conferences following big major premium live events, and Cody Rhodes was scheduled to appear and answer some questions from the media, but Triple H would arrive, and he said that he wasn't prepared, that he's coming a little early because something came up with Cody Rhodes, that he wasn't available. And upon first viewing, I thought that was very interesting, because Cody Rhodes is the face of the company. He's the WWE champion. He's the top baby face. I don't consider Roman a full baby face just yet. For me, he's kind of a tweener, kind of an anti-hero. So it was odd to not see Cody present. And I'm thinking, well, maybe something came up. Hopefully everything's okay. It's not something major. Is it something storyline related or not? Don't know. But following that, we would see that Cody, you know, on his way to his, tour bus, I'm assuming, was confronted by Kevin Owens. Now, Kevin Owens has a well documented history against the Bloodline. He's been fighting them for 4 years, essentially. And we've seen tensions begin to arise between he, being Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes. Until ultimately, we don't know what was said. We just got the body language. Until ultimately, Kevin Owens would strike Cody Rhodes, leading to what many fans have already expected in a heel turn. And what the beauty in the WWE right now is there can be an argument to be made that is this really a heel turn? Because you look at the storyline and how it's been progressed, one could argue that Kevin Owens is in the right when it comes to this betrayal of Cody Rhodes. In his mind, Kevin Owens is doing the right thing. And I think that's where the best villains come into play, is when they are in full belief that they are doing no wrong. Kevin Owens, for the better part of 4 years, has been battling against this bloodline, vowing to take them down. And meanwhile, we have Cody Rhodes here, who has done the same thing for the last 2 years, sides with Roman Reigns, the guy who was in charge of the bloodline. It doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of Kevin Owens' logic. So Kevin Owens attacks Cody Rhodes, and you even get my immediate reaction to that. I uploaded that on TikTok, but because TikTok is, an interesting place, they decided to take it down because of violations. But it is on the YouTube, on my YouTube Shorts, so check that out. Kevin Owens attacking Cody Rhodes. It's been a hot topic regarding the manner in which they did it, and that is using social media. I'm all for it. We've seen plenty of heel turns, face turns, whatever, plenty of drama unfold on TV. But with the usage of social media, and obviously the online presence that a lot of these superstars have, why not take advantage of it? I've seen interesting points where people are saying, were there any cameras, like WWE production crew, present for this angle? Because all we're seeing is fan footage, whether it's on social media, whether it's just on the camera roll. Like, we're not seeing anything produced by the WWE. Now, I would suspect that they probably do have some kind of footage out there, maybe a hidden camera, just so they have something to produce on SmackDown. But I like it because they took a risk and they apparently relied on the fans to record this interaction, this attack. And it only persuades the viewer to tune in on this week's episode of SmackDown or Raw. Maybe they address it on Raw. And I think that's very, very progressive in terms of the way they're handling their business. You would think that the WWE is going to take advantage of their TV time. They're going to promote the hell out of this storyline. But fresh off of a hot angle, The Rock returning, you add another one with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. I'm of the assumption that Cody Rhodes' time with the Bloodline's done. He's now going to be focused on Kevin Owens. I think that's the smart play here. It just makes sense in terms of logic, in terms of progression of character, and the Bloodline doesn't need Cody Rhodes involved. I'm over that already. Cody Rhodes has already done his piece with that storyline. I rather focus it on being the Bloodline, the OG Bloodline, versus this new Bloodline, this internal struggle within a family. Cody Rhodes is the WWE champion, doesn't need to be associated with that. He should handle his own business. Now, with that being said, what I do want to talk about real quick is just the significance of this. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens do an angle off screen. It's presented as realism. It's presented as a reality in the real world, right? So I see people, because I, like I said, had commented on it. I had produced a small video, just quick update on my thoughts on the angle that they shot. And there were a lot of people who were either kind of poo-pooing the idea that they would do this after the show with no cameras and it's just another heel turn and whatever. That's fine. That's your opinion. What I didn't like, and I'm sure many professional wrestling fans can agree with this sentiment, there were so many people commenting, oh, it's fake. Oh, it's not real. Or like one of my favorite comments was, you guys all know it's fake, right? And it's like, that stuff, you would think it would get people riled up. It would get them mad. Not me. I find it quite amusing because I think about those people and I'm like, man, it must really suck to like watch a movie or like a TV show with these guys, because I can't imagine trying to enjoy some form of entertainment, whether it's a movie, whether it's television, whatever the case, whether it's a skit on TikTok. I could not sit down with this person and have them telling me, hey, you know that's fake, right? It's like, yeah, you're going to suspend your disbelief. You're going to try to enjoy this form of entertainment. And so for those people, it's like so unoriginal when people come up to me or they say in the comments, "Oh, it's all fake." It's like, yeah, so is like literally any other movie or any other TV show, but you still watch it. You could even argue that it's a higher form of entertainment. And what I mean by that is it tends to blend the lines of reality and fiction. It tends to blur them in between. There are some points in history where you don't know if this thing is, a work or a shoot, real or scripted. Um, so I get a real kick out of that when people like to say like, well, it's fake, right? As if it's some kind of secret. So there we are, left to our own thoughts. Like, wow, well, thank God. Like, if you would have never told me that, I would have never figured it out, man. Like, I don't know, just something I thought that was very amusing for me. In terms of in the world of professional wrestling, we do have big news regarding Monday Night Raw. For the first time in, wow, a decade at least, Monday Night Raw will be going back to 2 hours. It first went to 3 hours. I believe it was Raw 1000 in July of 2012, the same night CM Punk had turned heel and attacked The Rock. Um, so to think that it's the first time in a decade that we're going to be going to 2 hours is amazing, because I remember there was a time being where many fans were clamoring for it to return to 2 hours. They thought 3 hours far too long, too much, dead air, and then there was just a lot of filler. But now, under the current regime, under the current landscape that is the WWE, one could argue, man, is it going to be enough time? Because the way Triple H and creative have been able to craft these storylines that everything counts on Monday Night Raw. I feel like I've seen a lot of episodes of Raw lately where it's like every segment something consequential occurs. Something important in regards to a certain storyline is happening that you can't just skip out because it has ramifications down the line. So now that it's going to be 2 hours, how are we going to separate it? What I could see happening is like NXT and SmackDown, obviously, those are 2 hour shows. They kind of have, the main storylines present every week, but then those like B storylines, those subplots kind of rotate every other week. For example, let's just throw this out. We have like the Intercontinental Championship. It's going to be Jey Uso against Xavier Woods. There's your mid card feud for this week. Then next week, we focus on another kind of mid card feud. Let's say it's like Zelina Vega and the Shayna Baszler's group. Like every now and then, we're just going to get alternative storylines. I could see them doing something like that. But this card coming up is filled, full of action, full of story. We have the Donnybrook matchup between Sheamus and Pete Dunne. Obviously, I talked about the Intercontinental Championship between Jay and Xavier. And then there's the world title. Sami Zayn versus Gunther, a match that many argued could have been held at the Bad Blood event, but it's not. It's going to be probably the main event of this episode of Raw, which should be a fantastic matchup. Gunther and Sami Zayn had a great matchup at WrestleMania. I anticipate another great matchup between two of the best stars in the WWE. But again, something to look out for. How are they going to work this into the 2 hours? Because I feel like it's going to fly by, especially because we're so accustomed to the 3 hours of Monday Night Raw. We know that in January, I believe it was January 6th, that they will be making the jump to Netflix. How is that going to work? Is the runtime going to remain 2 hours? If you ask me, I'm thinking it's going to be roughly 2 hours with, the high probability that it'll kind of creep into 2 hours and 30 minutes. There won't be necessarily a restriction in the runtime, just like an estimation. Like how there's episodes on Netflix where in a series it's like, oh, this one's 54 minutes. This one's 36 minutes. It's like roughly in that little area in terms of the timing. But other news on Monday Night Raw that I do want to talk about. obviously, is the status of the Intercontinental Championship. One, I know I talked about it on the post show reaction. The new title design that Jey Uso has is fantastic. I love it. It's a blend between obviously the current championship, but also like the Intercontinental title of the mid 2000s, that ruthless aggression slash, tail end of the Attitude Era, the Oval title that was most notable with guys like Chris Jericho. Big fan of that. You're blending in two different storylines here. Obviously, Jey Uso being the IC champion, Xavier Woods on his inevitable path to the dark side. I think this might be the match where we see a heel turn. And what I mean by that is, let's say Jey Uso is winning the match. No doubt in my mind, he's going to defeat Xavier Woods. He grows frustrated. Maybe Kofi tries to, comfort him and allow him some, words of encouragement. And Xavier Woods doesn't want to hear it. We see a shove, and maybe this is it. Maybe this is the implosion of the New Day as we know it. Interesting storyline there, because I never thought we were going to turn them against each other. It just seemed like a group that would eventually kind of dissolve. We knew Big E had left the group and became a main eventer. Kofi had left for a little bit as a main eventer. Obviously, they were still intact as a group, but I never thought we were going to see them just full on go up against each other. So, don't know. That'll be interesting to watch. Obviously, one topic that I have touched upon during SmackDown's post-show reaction is the status of the tag team division. Growing up, I was always a big fan of the tag team division, whether it was guys like the Hardy Boys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian. That right there is the holy trinity of the 2000s tag team division for me. And to see the status of it now, look at the status of the Raw brand, the world tag titles. Finn Balor and JD McDonough have been the tag team champions for over 100 days. Only have one title defense. Before them, it was the Awesome Truth, Forgettable Reign. On SmackDown, we had A-Town Down Under, Forgettable Reign, DIY, who didn't even really get to have a title reign to begin with, because it was like a blink and you miss it type of deal, until they finally lost it to the Bloodline, which was Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga, until they decided to take it off of Jacob and give it to Tonga Loa. And for me, very much similar to like the WWE title in Cody Rhodes. It doesn't need to be associated with the group. The group itself, the storyline of the Bloodline, doesn't require a championship. Don't get me wrong. It's a nice addition to the storyline. But I look at it as like a luxury. You don't need it, to be involved. Yeah, sure, it's cool, but you don't need it. And the way the tag team division is right now, it's not the healthiest it has been. Yeah, we have a little bit of variety in terms of who is in the division, but it doesn't feel like there's a level of significance or importance when it comes to the tag titles. You'll look at a group like the Motor City Machine Guns, who will be arriving on Friday Night SmackDown, as it appears, fairly soon. I would think that they're just going to give the titles to them, because the Motor City Machine Guns are a credible tag team that have held gold, whether it was in TNA, whether it was in Japan. Like, that's a team that could take those titles and just have a lengthy role, have great matches with others like DIY, like the Street Profits, like Legado del Fantasma. Like, I could see them just having banger after banger. But it's only to elevate those titles, because right now, as it currently stands, that's not really a division that has a lot of focus on it, on either brand. And it's a shame, because it wasn't always like that. Like I said, refer to those previous 3 tags teams that I mentioned earlier, and they do have the talent, they do have the potential, but they got to capitalize on it. And if they don't, it's going to be one of those failing points in this current regime when it comes to Triple H. And Triple H also has gone under a little bit of fire in regards to the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, and even to the point where at the Bad Blood press conference, he was even questioned about the black representation on WWE television, that there has been a lack of singles matches, including members of the talent that are, black. And it's not wrong, it's a fact. We haven't seen a lot of, talent that is black on these PLEs. His answer kind of raised up a little bit of controversy amongst fans. He had answered that he doesn't see color, that he sees talent. And depending on the dictation of the storyline and what is deemed the bigger story, that will be selected on each card. Or, whoever's the main event, it'll be dependent on what's the main story. Take it out as you will, but I did see somewhere that with an answer like, oh, I don't see color, it's kind of negating the history and therefore like the discrimination that has been presented in the past. I get what he was trying to say, and that he was trying to focus on, no, we're just focusing on talent. And I don't think that that's really an issue in the WWE right now. There's plenty of representation when it comes to the Hispanics, whether it comes to the black community or even the Asian community. There's a plenty of diversity. It's just we're focusing in on one demographic. Now, with that being said, I do think guys like Carmelo Hayes, for sure, regardless of race or background, should be on these shows more frequently. Like the matches he had with like Andrade, could have had that at Bash in Berlin, could have had it at Bad Blood, but they didn't. They didn't capitalize on it. When was the last time Bianca Belair had like a one-on-one matchup? I mean, obviously she's in a tag team, but it's just an example. I don't know. Just a talking point, and I think it's something they're going to have to address. I think we're going to see them not take a pivot, but they certainly will, I think, make a conscious effort to rectify this. But then you look at a brand like NXT, filled with diversity, especially when it comes to the black community. I mean, look at Javon Evans. He's going to have a matchup against Randy Orton. That's a huge matchup for Evans. In St. Louis, Missouri, obviously we know Randy Orton's probably going to go over. But it's like, talk about an opportunity for Javon Evans. NXT is on fire as of late. And then you look on Tuesday, it's not going to be the only show airing, because Dynamite will also have, its own airing on Tuesday, I believe, because Wednesday is, I believe it's because of the playoffs for baseball, and that'll have to shift them over a date earlier than expected. But the business is just on fire, just booming. I feel like I say that often, but it's because it is. There's always something to talk about. There's always something noteworthy in the news, whether it's the storylines being presented, whether it's something behind the scenes. There's always something present. And obviously now that we have Bad Blood in the rearview mirror, we're looking forward to Crown Jewel. We have Wrestle Dream coming up as well. And then before you know it, we're going to get the wheels moving to Survivor Series, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. Like it's going. It's flying by. And the more time that's passing by, the more quality wrestling I think that we're getting. It's only getting better. Obviously, there are a little bit of hits and misses here and there. But as an overall business, you can argue this is the second biggest boom in professional wrestling, after, I would say, the 80s, because that one set everything on the map. But now it's like, in terms of revenue, in terms of mainstream appeal, we're now reaching that 80s period, I think, in my opinion, of course. But I want to hear your guys' opinion. Go ahead and make sure to comment down below your thoughts on the current status of professional wrestling, as well as the Kevin Owens heel turn, the return of The Rock. Anything you guys want to comment down below, please make sure to do so. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, make sure to put a thumbs up, like the video, and always subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all the episodes of the podcast, as well as the post-show reactions that I upload here on YouTube. And with that being said, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'll catch you in the next one.